The Headless Ghost is about two friends, Stephanie and Dwayne, who are obsessed with Hill House, the local haunted house. This isn't your run-of-the-mill neighborhood haunted house. Oh no. This is one of those places that have had legit bad things go on there. The kind of places that get featured on paranormal shows on Discovery or Sci-Fi. According to the tour guide, Otto, Hill House was where the ghost of an old sea captain ripped the fucking head off of a 13-year-old boy and hid it somewhere in the house, dooming the poor kid to search for his head for all eternity. Gruesome shit, huh? Well, one night, Stephanie suggests to Dwayne that they break off from the tour and go explore the third floor of the house, which is normally off limits. Unfortunately, they find nothing, except for a boy with a turtleneck sweater who watches Stephanie and Dwayne's every move. This kinda creeped me out, as it's obvious to anyone over 12 that this is the Headless Ghost, whose name was Andrew. Outside the house, Andrew approaches them, says his name is Seth, and that he can get them into the super unknown parts of the house. They follow him in, and while they're exploring these locations, Seth begins telling them stories about the house the pair had never heard before. One particularly gruesome one involving a kid named Jeremy going down a dumbwaiter and coming out in pieces. This messed with me as well, since I know Seth is the ghost, and I had to wonder if he wasn't the cause of some of these horrible events. While exploring, Seth finally admits he's the Headless Ghost, and that he wants Dwayne's head. The kids flee, inadvertently breaking down a makeshift wall that uncovers a human head. Wouldn't you know? Then another ghost floats down from above, claims the head, offers his thanks to Dwayne and Stephanie, and disappears. So that was the real Andrew. Turns out Seth wasn't a ghost after all, but Otto the tour guide's nephew. Normally this kind of ending would piss me off, but the atmosphere is actually pretty good. What helped were all the ghost stories Stein threw in to keep me immersed in the narrative. This one was pretty great. The Abominable Snowman of Pasadena. This one was another surprisingly fun read, reminding me a little bit of the movie Lost World Jurassic Park. Following Jordan, his sister Nicole, and their dad who's a photographer, it starts off with hammering us with how much Jordan wants to see snow. Their father often goes out of state on assignments, and he brings back stories of this magical frozen water that falls down from the sky. Well, their dad's next assignment is up in Alaska to, get this, get photographic evidence of the Abominable Snowman. Right off the bat, I'm thinking of the earlier book Deep Trouble and how reps from the zoo wanted George Deep, or Dr. Dick as you may recall, to catch a live mermaid. Like that book, there are reports by the locals of a snowman wandering the area, and Mr. Blake is sent in to investigate. He brings his kids along who are surprisingly resilient to the cold. They walk 10 miles to their cabin. After 2 miles, Jordan finally begins to feel the effects of the cold. Now, coming from California, shouldn't he have been losing his mind the moment he got off the plane? When your body gets used to a certain temperature, it reacts in funny ways when you go to a different climate. I remember camping with Alaskans once in near freezing weather. Well, near freezing for me. I was bundled up in a winter coat while they were in shorts and sandals. Anyway, they of course find the monster, but it's frozen. So what do? Take it back to Pasadena, of course. This is where the connection to the Lost World comes in. How the book ends is too weird for me to get too much into. You just need to read it to believe it. The Abominable Snowman of Pasadena wasn't too bad. Actually, pretty tense in places. How I Got My Shrunken Head. Would you look at this? We have an episode full of solid titles. This doesn't happen often, which is disheartening because I loved this series so much as a kid, but man, was I glad when this book turned out to be a really good one as well. It follows a kid named Mark who's a super dork that's into anything jungle related, even having made up his own jungle cry. Kalia! Yeah, Kalia, motherfuckers! One day, a woman named Carolyn comes by and gifts Mark a shrunken head. This head begins glowing, but only Mark can see it. Carolyn was sent to retrieve Mark as his Aunt Benna wants him to come to the island where she works at. Of course, Mark goes, but when he gets there, his aunt is nowhere to be found. Carolyn says she's been missing for a while now and they need Mark to help. How can he help? By using his jungle magic, of course. Evidence of his possessing this magic is when Mark saw the shrunken head glow. So Mark goes off to find his aunt, alone in the jungle. One morning he wakes up to see himself covered in fire ants. He randomly calls out, Kalia! And the fire ants fall away. Later he falls into quicksand. Kalia! Vines shoot out and pull him up from the sand. And when he's attacked by a tiger, Kalia! The earth opens up and saves him. He eventually finds his aunt, who's been hiding out because Caroline, along with a man named Dr. Hollings, wants the secret of the jungle magic. Unfortunately, the pair followed Mark, but Kalia! Mark shrinks them down with his superpowers to the size of a mouse. I don't know what to say about this book other than that it's amazing. I'm sure you can tell why. Kalia!